Okay, then, so we're going to close this direct by bringing in John to talk about our latest big project, Crimson Desert, on consoles, an eagerly awaited video slash piece of content. And man, I guess we've got some stories to tell about the content. We've got some insights to have about the console version of the game. Ultimately, John, people were just really, really excited by this game I think to an unprecedented degree. It's caught me completely by surprise, but the game is amazing, isn't it? And I guess the good news, at least from the PlayStation 5 professional perspective, is that I guess the promise has been met, right?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, Rich, I don't even know where to start with this. This is just so, I mean, I was aware of this game. I paid somewhat of attention to it, but I didn't fully grasp like what they were trying to do, and I didn't really
Right.
expect them to be able to deliver what they've done here. So going into this with a surprise for me was like a mind-blowing experience. But before I talk about that, first, like, the way that we got access to this was just crazy, in that they basically offered us a chance to check out the console version. They actually flew somebody over here to give me that opportunity to spend time with it. So that was really, really unprecedented, I would say. And
Yeah, literally turning up at your house.
they came to my house with the game. It's like, remember those
Right.
old commercials for the Wii, where they would be like,
We?
we
Unfortunately,
would like
yes.
to play, and they show up at your door, and it's like, that's literally how this went. And it was just
Wow.
uh honestly incredible to really get a chance to spend with it. And again, I didn't know what to expect. And then what I've experienced here is possibly like the most impressive open world environment I've ever seen in any game ever. Like, this is on the last time I could experience something like this was maybe Red Dead Redemption 2, and this goes a step further in the sense that you're given like unprecedented freedom to just do whatever the heck you want. Like, even right out of the gate, like within the first hour, I was like, all right, I need to see what this world is about. And I do this sometimes. You set a waypoint on the other side of the map and said, let's just go. Usually in games, that's like, you know, 30 minutes of walking or like running or whatever. You see some things along the way, but it's not like insane. This is a game that, to reach this final point of my journey, it took like 4 or 5 hours. Like, it was, and so much happened along the way. Like, it starts off like looking vaguely Witcherish, like Western fantasy, and then next thing you know, there's like giant robot insects and orcs with guns fighting each other on a hill. And then you're in some like weird castle thing. And then, oh, now I'm in a rainforest at night in a giant storm being attacked by bandits. And then, oh, now I'm climbing on this giant spire. And then here's this huge desert encampment. And you climb up this tower. And the tower is so high that it takes just like 20 minutes to reach the top. And you look out and you're like, what even is this? And then there's flying things, there's the world in the sky, there's like caves, there's just things happening all over. The fights are like wild and kinetic and action driven, and like the camera work around it, like, you just, I say in my video that it's like you feel like the medieval John Wick, because you're just dispatching enemies, and like they do this stuff with just a little bit of slow motion and like dynamic camera angles to make it feel so impactful. Like, when you hold the triangle button, you kick a dude off the cliff. The way the camera pulls back with a little bit of slow mo, and his trail of blood follows him as he goes flying over the edge, collapsing to the ground, and then the camera snaps back in. It's like, how the heck? And it's just, there's just this constant stream of moments where you're like, how did they do this? Right? And it's a game where
Right.
it's just like, you can climb anything, you can attack anything, you can create chaos, you can follow the rules, you can follow the story, like going into a giant town and like threatening everybody, and then getting into a huge battle with like literally 30 guards, and then they're chasing you through an alley. You climb up a building, they start throwing stuff at you and knock you off the roof. You get damaged and then try to scramble up the wall, jump off the castle wall, fly across the bay as they're shooting at you, climb another wall, stealth kill a bunch of guards in another part of the tower as they open the gate and come running for you, and then you dive off and end up in the water, and you slowly try to swim across while they're like coming for you. It's just like, it's just those types of moments, they just happen. It's like you
Right.
always hear about these games where things can just happen, and like just the scale of what does happen in this is honestly mind blowing. So it's got me so excited. Like I'm just I'm very curious to see what people think of this, because I haven't spent that much time with the actual story. I've just been exploring the world, which is something I usually find
That's
boring
good.
in these games. I don't like doing this normally. It's not that interesting. Maybe in Rockstar games it's very interesting. Breath of the Wild had some of this, but usually just walking across the open world isn't that fun. But it's amazing in Crimson Desert. And if you're playing on
Wow.
PS5 Pro, it's good. Not perfect, but it's very, very good. And this version, as I said, only has the original PSSR, so image quality is not as good as it could be, but it's still good enough. The resolutions, even in performance mode, it's still like 1080p at the lowest, with
Mm.
PSSR up to a higher res. But the other modes, I actually like the 40 FPS mode a lot, because that's with PSSR, it looks suitably 4K ish. It's pretty clean image quality, and it's very, very stable at 40, like most of the time. Because in the performance
Nice.
mode, there's some areas where, yeah, when you activate like 50 NPCs and they're all running around and things are going crazy, it absolutely dips. I feature that whole section on Bug Hill in my video for a reason, where it's just a giant battle ensuing around you and there's tons of stuff happening and the frame rate does plummet there. But like I feel like most of the moment to moment gameplay is a stable 60 or 40 or 30, depending on which mode you want, that you're willing to overlook that, right? Like it's one of those cases where I look at games like either you have performance problems and they happen kind of all the time, but like up and down, or you have a game where the performance problems only arise in areas where it kind of makes sense, where things get so busy or crazy, where you're like, okay, this actually makes sense. And it's those moments I can be more forgiving, because you just see what they're trying to do at scale here. And it's like, all right, that I can forgive this. I see what's going on here. There's a lot happening. So
Right. One point of clarification is that your build has first gen PSSR, but the actual retail build apparently will have PSSR 2. That kind of indicates really, I think the console versions are coming in quite late. We don't have traditional review code in the sense that
correct.
we get given like redeem codes for the stores and we just play off there. Some dude from Korea needed to turn up to give you a console to actually play the game on. And it's not the final game, but very, very close to it. So I think, yeah, that's going to be interesting to see the PSSR 1 versus PSSR 2 upgrade there, because if the base resolution in performance mode is 1080p, then PSSR 2 should do a much better job
Agreed.
than PSSR 1. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right, Rich. I think it could be a huge upgrade here. And again, yes, you're right. This is not the final version of the game that I've played here. So, but you know, we were
I think it's just, yeah, it's just the case that Pearl Abyss wanted to kind of prove the doubters wrong, because there was a lot of talk about how we haven't seen the console versions yet. There were parallels to Cyberpunk 2077 where you've got this amazing high-end PC game that may not scale well to consoles. And I think it's to Pearl Abyss's credit that they basically said, well, okay, we'll give Digital Foundry a console with the game on it.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think this situation is nothing like Cyberpunk in that regard. Like the actual performance levels here are much better. Image quality's better. I mean, of course, Cyberpunk first launched on last gen platforms, but like here you can either have a stable 30 FPS experience, a stable 40 FPS experience, or a mostly stable but sometimes wavering 60 or above 60. If you have VRR, you probably won't even notice dips in most areas anyway, because it's very, very nice. And it does help a ton. It's crazy to see that this can exist. The only thing I will say, and I think some people will pick up on this, and it bothered me a little at first, but there are some visual artifacts as a result of some of the techniques they're doing. Of course, there's the ray tracing stuff, ray tracing everywhere, RTGI and RT reflections, and in some of it feels like they're, and this applies to the whole game. It feels like they aren't aware of industry best practices and just said, what the heck, just do whatever. And that's how I feel about the whole game. And it includes like they put their lighting in situations that are so extreme where you're like, man, like this, it takes guts to like do it this way. Like when you have a ray traced GI system, and you allow the player to enter a completely black room, and it's just your light source in there, like, it's going to reveal some of the flaws, right? And that absolutely happens. But it's worth it, I think, because like yesterday I was walking into a house at night in the game, and I realized there was like a soft pale light of the window frame being cast on a wall across the room. This large, very soft, diffuse shadowed glow from the moonlight coming in through the window. And I can't recall ever actually seeing a game where like real-time moonlight was visible and contrasting with other shadows from nearby candles in this way. And it really makes the benefits stand out. There's also the displacement mapping stuff. They go hog wild with displacement mapping, which is essentially they're able to create depth in a texture without actually rendering the geometry. I mean, this goes back to, like, you remember Perfect Dark Zero in my Xbox 360 video, the 3D bricks.
Yes.
They're like, what if we did that for everything and we just use it all over the place? And they do. There's like not a flat surface in this game. The problem is like on some edges, it creates artifacts. Either you can see where it breaks down a little bit, or you get some extra aliasing that seems a little bit off. Essentially, you can see the drawbacks to using that system. I still think it's worth using because it overall gives the game this like extreme level of detail that's like so granular and so detailed that it's honestly hard to believe at times, but you can also spot the issues. So that's really kind of what it is. And I think a lot of those issues you'll still see on PC, although with the NVIDIA ray reconstruction and re-ray generation and all that, that definitely is a big deal, and Alex will have more on that for sure. But this kind of stuff you'll see it. But I don't know. I mean, I what can I say? I think it's pretty darn great on here, and I'm very curious to see how it runs on the other consoles. Pearl Abyss did release that spec sheet revealing that PS5 and Xbox Series X also have 3 modes and ray tracing. It's only Series S that has 2 modes and no ray tracing. And based on what I saw on the PC version, disabling ray tracing, it does have a noticeable impact on visual quality, but it doesn't like ruin it, right? It still looks pretty okay. But I'll be curious to experiment more with that to see how it actually stacks up. But either way, the whole time you're playing this game, even with its flaws, you think like Unreal Engine could never, is the feeling I got. Like,
That's cool.
Like
That's cool.
You just feel the benefits of them making their own engine and doing things with that engine that you barely ever see. Certainly not to this scale. It's honestly just ridiculous. What can I say?
Alex, what do you make of all of that? I think one thing that's quite interesting from my perspective is how open the developer has been with us. The interview that we posted on the website the other day. I mean, you basically threw everything you had at them. They just told you everything. And the other thing, of course, is obviously we're big on optimized settings, and we asked, we can work out. We said to Pearl Abyss, we can work out what the console equivalent settings are, but obviously we see those console settings as your optimized settings for a fixed platform. What can you share them? And they just did it for like PlayStation 5 and PlayStation 5 Pro, so you'll see that coming up in the coverage as well. But quite a remarkable situation, right?
Yeah, I think if you're not a Japanese or like a core Western developer from like one of the big houses like Ubisoft, EA, there sometimes is a level of frankness regarding the technical considerations of games that is surprising. We see that when we talk with 4A. We actually do see it with CDPR at times. Like there's a number of companies that are very open about it just because they like the tech side of their games so much, and they're usually proud of it in a big way, and that really shows across this product. I think the fact that they've been so willing to be so open with John and myself regarding the PC and console version, at least with that PS5 Pro version, because that's the console essentially that they brought for John. I think that shows the level of confidence and they have. And beyond some, like John did mention, we are looking at an early version of the game, both as in not the final version, hence John's version lacking the upgraded PSSR. And the PC version does have some bugs that are kind of funny. That do make the testing not 100% easy always. I think that's something you don't get from many developers. And I'm very, very happy that they did. On the technical side, I do get the exact same feeling John had. UE5 could never. And I really mainly say that from like a CPU performance perspective. Right. I think there's things in here that visually that UE5 could do similarly, better, maybe a little worse in some cases.
Yeah, nanite stuff would have, because there is definitely pop-in in this game, for instance.
Right, yeah. So that's like an instance where like that would have been cool. But at the same time, like we've just seen such catastrophic CPU performance from so many shipping UE5 games that try to get more ambitious with multiple NPCs or denser areas. You know, I mean, they're not the same maybe level of investment in money, but like look at the Outer Worlds or, you know, Obsidian's other game that I always forget the name of.
Obsidian, right?
Oh yeah, you know, just like open world UE5 stuff that just has really big problems when it starts to get Avowed. Thank you. When it starts to get more ambitiously dense in terms of like cities and conglomerations of NPCs or just density of objects, and here there's much less of that issue, and it is a much smoother sailing game. And I'll be talking about it all in my video, but I think there is like a semi-generational difference at times in letting on PC. And I think that is a really cool thing that they offer the PC users to go a step above. And not every dev will do that, or they won't even be as honest, I think, with their PC specifications that they released, which I think are actually pretty darn honest for the most part. So I think, you know, yeah, it's just a cool technical product. And as John said, I have yet to get super far into the game at all, but you know, it seems like a really awesome systemic experience for people who like that kind of thing. And I actually tend to, so it seems like a game that'd be right for me.
Mm-hmm. I've just been enjoying the various posts that have appeared from Slack, on our internal Slack, mostly from John, basically saying, hey, look at this. And yesterday was one of my favorites. Hey, Rich, you like CPU-bound benchmarks? Check this out.
Yeah.
That was pretty awesome. Okay, well, I think if we continue this discussion, we're probably going to be spoiling a bit more content that we've got coming up. But suffice to say that I think a lot of people are going to be happy that, I think from my perspective, it's never really a question of graphics as such, because graphics are scalable.
Right.
Inherently, they're scalable. But I think the surprise here is that, you know, the internal resolutions haven't been unduly compromised. The image quality is good. And more to the point, there's always concerns about CPU on the current generation consoles because, you know, while a big upgrade over the old Jaguars, compared to today's even mainstream CPUs, they're very, very weak. So the concept that it's not a massive problem based on what we've seen so far in Crimson Desert, I think is a very, very good thing.